Fun and fire. I'm
Woohoo!
super excited about this. This is part of our new and improved Our Time to Rise podcast.
That's right.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about our vision for fun and fire?
Okay. Well, here we are living our real lives. And our real lives have fun elements, right? The lighthearted, the good, the silly, the things that bring us pleasure, that are good and wonderful things in this life. And then there are the things that just burn at us and they get us going. They get us motivated, sometimes in good ways, sometimes in hard ways. But there is something in us that drives us forward. And so every once in a while, we're going to do an episode that we call Fun and Fire. It's not always going to be like this. We don't know how frequently we'll have them, but every once in a while, there's going to be a fun and fire. And what we're going to do is talk about something we're loving right now and something that is
like that's super lighthearted.
Yes.
Lighthearted, fun.
But,
literally just like what we're thinking about that's just more on the surface, on the light side.
Yes. And then something that is making us burn right now, which we may not dive deep into, but just so we all know this is something that's getting me going, that is helping me get up, or even something maybe that is hard.
And waking us up in the middle of the night.
That's right. So anyway, that's the idea between fun and fire. So here's our first one, everyone.
Okay, so let's talk fun. Let's start with the fun. And we're going to go with parties. Planning.
Party planning, because we've both had parties recently, like within the last few weeks. So we're just going to talk about those parties and the details and why we did what we did and the fun parts. So what are your favorite things that you pull out when it's party time, Krista? Like the actual things that you hold in your hands?
Yeah. Well, you know how I always say with decorating, the easiest thing you can do is paint and put in new light fixtures for an instant change. Well, with parties, what you can do is you want to layer, you want to add height, and you want to add candles. So, so layering is some kind of, tablecloth or cloth or piece of material that you lay down. That's your layer. And that's usually fun. Like today I'm hosting a golf dinner. So I've got a layer down that kind of, it's just literally like a summer blanket, but it kind of feels golf coursey. And then I put a riser on that, and that just adds height. So you want to add risers that make it so that not everything is the same level. So I have this old crate. It's an antique crate, and I use that for everything. And so I added that. And then you want to use light. So I, have black lanterns are my thing. I collect them. I've told you before, I've said it on here. I use them for everything. So, but it can be any candles, but I just tend to have lanterns. So I usually put a lantern out with candles in it, or, candlesticks along the whole buffet. So, and I do it in one spot. So that's my other tip is focus. You don't have to decorate everywhere and do everything. Like today for the golf dinner, I'm not even decorating the table. I'm just decorating the island where they're going to be getting their food. And I changed our name sign. So there's a company called Pretty in Polka Dots, and it has these rails that you hang on your wall, and then you can just change the letters, and they're like 4-inch letters. They're big, but it's so fun because I literally change them every couple weeks according to what's going on. So when we had our bridal shower for Gabby and Dawson, I had Dawson Loves Gabby on there. And then for tonight, I've got something about golf. So I've got like go Mount Spo golf or something like that. So, you can just change them up, and it adds just a little festive touch where people feel seen because you've called out kind of their thing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I would say those are some of my quick ones that don't require you going out and buying things. I do have some things that I will buy So I really like potted plants because they last longer and I can use them multiple times as
Hmm.
opposed to I do fresh flowers sometimes because I choose that sometimes, but a lot of times, and this is what I did for the bridal shower, I got just a pack of those Gerber daisies at Costco, and I knew they would last me all month for all the things I have going on. And I just planted them in various containers and then I pull them out all month long.
Hmm.
So that's another tip that you can do. And it's great. And then I have these acrylic goblets that I bought on sale clearance. You know how in the summer, especially, they have a lot of outdoor wear, but then
Hmm.
eventually it goes 75% off and they're trying to get rid of it in fall. And I got these acrylic goblets and I use them for everything. I use them for drinks. I use them for fruit cups. I use them for desserts. So I keep those and pull them out a lot too.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's something I've learned is to have things that have multiple purposes and then also things that you can reuse over and over and over. And so that's really helpful, both
So
of those things.
what are some of yours?
So I think excuse me, I think I have a standard color palette of things for the table that I can pull out that can be made a little more holiday or just adult dinner. And the palette is black, white, gold, and now silver a little bit. And so then I can just incorporate if I want to add red for Valentine's Day, whatever, I can. And then I also have some decorations that are a little more festive that aren't necessarily birthday specific, but are primary colors that I can add in that maybe more for a kid party. And then I can add some happy birthday stuff if it's a birthday party. But just to have those staples that I can always bring out. And, the people I live with know I use them a lot, but the people who are coming to different events, they don't know that those are the things that I always use. Um,
Well,
and
and to your people, I think in some ways it becomes a tradition, which I think
yeah.
is fun too, right? Because it signifies special. And
Hmm.
so now when you get those out, they know the special's coming. So in some
That's
ways
right.
that's fun too.
Right. And so for this party that I just had, I was wanting to do um tall candles to add that height, but still have people be able to see across the table. So I didn't want to make it
Mhm.
too humongous. When I was at the thrift store, I just picked up a couple of extra candlestick holders. And so I have kind of doubled my candlestick by buying a couple extra. I've doubled my options there, but just having, I think, some staples that I know. And the thrift store is a great place to buy stuff for parties. So I buy dishes there, big serving platters. And again, if you go with a color palette like
Mhm.
white, it doesn't matter if everything matches the same maker, same brand. It can just all be white.
Mhm.
So anyway, the thrift store is a great place to look for those things that you think, oh, I don't want to spend $50 on a serving tray, but $3 that I pull out 3 times a year. Yeah, I can do that. The cost per use is makes
Right.
sense for me.
Well, and you can always spray paint. I mean, that's my
Hmm.
biggest thing, right? So if you want black candlesticks, but you don't want to spend a lot of money, then you go to the thrift store, you buy what's there and you spray paint them black.
Yeah.
And that works. Or if I'm going to start collecting brass candlestick holders, then every time you go into a thrift store or there's a clearance rack,
Hmm.
you say, is this, that vintage brass? And then you buy it and you start your collection that way, which, we're in wedding mode right now. And even renting that stuff is expensive. But if you're looking for it and you start your collection, then you've got it.
Right. And then you can pull it out.
Mhm.
Okay.
The other thing that I would say is having fun themed drinks is always a huge hit. So we, my sister and I did a party one time for our family business and we named him after my grandma because she was kind of an icon when my grandpa was running the business. And we had one that was called the Go-Go Gertie. And she always had lollipops on her desk. So we had stir sticks that were lollipops. And We had another one. Oh, what was that one? I'm not remembering the name of that one, but it was something with the business, and we had giant nails as the stir stick because it's in the construction industry, but they were clean. I mean, they were new, but we had nails.
Thanks for reassuring us all that
Yeah.
they were clean. Yeah.
That's
And
cute. That was really fun. And then for the bridal shower we did like a lavender mocktail. And so we made a lavender simple syrup. So that's another tip I have is if you have edible herbs or flowers that you can dry. And so like I just cut all my lavender in the fall and then I dried it all. And now I've got all this lavender I can pull out and use for different things. And it's so easy. Simple syrup is 1 part sugar to 1 part water. That's it. That's how you make simple syrup. And you can make 1,000 drinks with it. And if you add lavender, well, now you just got something really special because you've got lavender simple syrup, which feels super gourmet, right?
Yeah, that's
So
fun.
special drinks are, I think, a great touch. I mean, my sister for New Year's, she does the easiest thing ever. She literally gets cherry 7-Up, whipped cream, sprinkles, and makes that. And the kids call it the New Year's drink. And it's literally nothing. You know what I mean? But it's the New Year's drink. And so I think drinks are a great way and a simple thing that we can do to make something feel special.
Yeah. And the way that you serve it, the drink, the cup, if you will.
The cup.
that-
Well, and
that
the
you serve it in.
sprinkles, like the fact that she adds sprinkles onto the whipped cream, right? Like that makes it different and special. And so, and kid like, they like it.
Yeah. Well, so I pulled out the 1960s punch bowl for our prom dinner party we just had. And it has all the cups stored right in it. And you can buy them at the thrift store, but this one was my stepdad's. So I love it because it's part of our family history. And we use it maybe 3 times a year, but it is worth it to me to store it because it's so easy. And again, if you can do anything with a 2-liter of 7-Up and some ice and another something in there. And
well,
it
throw
works.
sherbet in there. I mean,
Yeah.
if you had sherbet in there, man, that's all you need is like 7-Up and sherbet. That's like a really amazing punch. And then you can throw like a pineapple concentrate or orange juice concentrate.
Yeah. So super, super easy. But most of these kids had never had punch from a punch bowl before. Like it felt like this retro,
totally
different thing. Now, they probably would roll their eyes and say it was really dumb, but I thought it was super special.
No, I bet they loved it actually, because I think that is special for them to feel like they're doing something that has some history to it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a fun way to do easy drinks for a big group. Let's see, what else? What about paper versus real plates? That's a dilemma that people often have.
It is. And my rule has been like tonight, the golf team is not huge. So, it's only 13 people. So I'm doing real tonight, but anytime it gets over 15 is when that's my point where I tend to go, okay, we're going to paper. So it's just, and you can use reusable. If you get the nicer kind of plastic, sturdier ones, those are reusable. And TJ Maxx has them at various times. So you can look for those. But yeah, that's always a little bit of a dilemma. And yet at the same time, there's a lot of cleanup after a party. And so 15 is kind of my limit. What about you?
Well, I always like to use real, but I don't have 30 real plates, I don't in my stock. So I've considered, because I kind of just go with the white palette when I'm at the thrift store, should I just have a hodgepodge of white plates? I don't know. We did buy plastic reusable ones from Costco for Easter because we had 20 people for Easter, and I washed them in the dishwasher and used them again for the other party. So I can verify they are actually reusable. And then the kids all threw them away, and that was fine because I bought them for a 2-time use, and that was okay.
That's exactly, like you may not use them indefinitely, but they last a couple of times.
Yeah.
Those sturdier plastic ones.
So what about music?
Yeah, music is huge. People don't I mean, some people do because they care a lot about music, but I would say it's one of those things that is really important to think through that we don't always think through. So, like, for example, if it's a party for my son's golf team, I actually will have him do a playlist.
Mhm.
Or like we have some wedding stuff coming up and I'm having my other son do his playlists for that because it's their event. And so I want the music to reflect what they want at that
Mhm.
event.
Mhm.
And if I'm hosting the event and I get to choose, then really putting some thought into like, okay, if I'm having a bridal shower, what does this person really like? What kind of
Mhm.
music do they prefer? And how can I reflect what they would want in that? And so that's part of how you make a party custom
Mhm.
to the people. And I will just give a little tip um, on Spotify or Pandora. They have lots of acoustic guitar stations. You can enter like a Ben Rector station if you like that vibe. And so then they play music that is like
Mhm.
that, which I
Yep.
think most people know that, but I think it's a good reminder that they do the work for you if you enter a genre.
Mhm. Yep. And you got a vibe going.
What did you do for music at your prom dinner?
So same thing. I told Genevieve she could do a playlist, and um, she arrived with the guests because they had gone to take pictures before. So I had chosen, like, I had just looked up kind of like chill vibes on Spotify, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she actually ever changed it, but because it was being played from my phone. But I gave her that responsibility because it was her party.
Right.
Yeah.
I will
Um.
say, if you're the one taking pictures and video, have someone else have the playlist on their phone
Mhm.
because
That's a
if
good
you
tip.
do video, then it turns the music off and that kind of kills the vibe. So just keep that in mind of who's the photographer and, play it off someone else's phone.
Yes.
The other thing I would add is that many people don't know that Costco.com has fresh greenery garlands at a very reasonable price compared to other places. So if you're doing a more formal event
Mm.
or a rehearsal dinner or something that's just a little more upscale, that is such a great place because you just throw one of those down on a table, you stick some candlesticks or some hurricane candle holders in there, and you've got like an instant centerpiece.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, I saw a couple of things from pictures from the bridal shower you just did that I want to ask you about,
Okay.
that I thought this is something I might want to invest in. The balloon form. Can
Oh,
we
the
talk
balloon
about
arch.
that?
You're
Yes.
thinking you might want to invest in the balloon arch.
Well, I looked it up. I followed the link because again, I like having the staples, and like this could be something that we have.
Mhm.
And it felt like, yeah, for something that you'd use multiple times,
Right.
it so it was a circle, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't just an arch, it was a full circle, and it was about $100 if I remember remembering
Yeah,
right.
it's
The
right
form.
around there. I mean, you can find them for less. You can find them for so usually it's around 60 to 100, the balloon
Uh-huh.
arches. And the ones that are circular are less expensive than the ones that
Okay.
are, what do you call that shape? That's kind of
Like an
domed.
arch, maybe.
Maybe a true arch. They
Yeah.
call the other ones arches too, but maybe
Okay.
that true arch is more expensive. But what I like about the circular one is you can buy the covers for it that, go over it to make it, because you can have it just open or
Uh-huh.
you can buy the cover. But I think the cover is nice because if you have, um, if you're not doing it outside, it's just prettier, I think, to have the cover over it. And then the balloons are only like $10 a pack. So once
Mhm.
you have the arch, I mean, to
Right.
your point, and it
Yeah.
breaks down. And so it stores fairly compactly. And then you just put it together, which tip there, you have to put it together on the floor. That was the mistake I made. I went
Okay.
round and round and round. That took me the longest time actually, until I finally realized, oh, I have to do this on the floor. And then once I got it all together, then the balloons, you just want an electric pump because you
Okay.
you can't blow them up all yourself. So you need an
Mhm.
electric pump, and those are run around $20. And then you literally just blow them up different sizes and kind of twist them together and then put them on the arch with, those long balloons that you make animal
Mm-hmm.
balloons
Yeah.
with?
Yeah.
You actually tie them on with those. And so that was something I learned because local places don't carry those. And
Oh,
so that was a last minute like pivot we had to make, my sister and I, because so she was running around to Walmart's because they were the only ones that were carrying
yeah.
them.
Oh, God
And
bless Walmart. They always have everything that nobody else has.
right, but then they were like pink and yellow
Yeah.
and like they didn't have all white. So my biggest tip on that, and I'll put all this stuff in the show notes, but my biggest tip on the balloon arch is order those long balloons. They're called like 216s or 265. I don't remember something. I never heard the name of them before the balloon arch, endeavor. But anyway, just
You
order
weren't well
those in
versed.
white because
Okay.
you definitely don't want them showing on your arch. It's ugly. So we were able to hide them,
Mhm.
but that was a little bit of a, panic
Okay.
moment.
Panic moment, but you did it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you also had favors that were wooden spoons that were engraved with special things that were very custom. So is that typical for you to do a custom gift like that? And what's your take on party favors in general?
Well, I think when it's something that's for a more special event, like a bridal shower,
Mhm.
that feels, this is a one-time thing for that bride.
Mhm.
And so it's just something that elevates it a little bit. And so I like having party favors that reflect the person or the theme of the shower. So it was a kitchen shower.
Mhm.
And because of that, we had everyone bring special recipes. So I sent recipe cards to every person and then they filled them out and gave them with their gift and talked about why those recipes were special to them, which was
Mhm.
really meaningful. I loved that part of the shower. And then we did custom wooden spoons and we just wrapped them in like a little tea towel and they
Mhm.
turned out so cute. And the verse that Dawson and Gabby love is about salt and light. And so we just put on there, just add salt and light on the wooden
Mm.
spoons, because also like one of the things that maybe this is just a personal preference, but I don't love it when brands or people put like their names on something that
Mhm.
I'm going to be using on the daily basis. Like
Right.
I actually don't like that because I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't want your company's name on this hat, this trucker hat. I would have worn the trucker hat had, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I actually always try and think of how can I make it personal to them without like putting their wedding date on there?
Mhm.
Because people honestly don't want the wedding date on there when they're using it in the daily. And so instead we took their verse and then figured out a kind of a clever way to put that on the spoon.
Mhm. Yeah, I think probably reduces waste because people will actually keep those spoons and use them. But if they have somebody's name on them, they may not.
Right.
I
And they're
mean, I
still
love Dawson and Gabby.
thinking,
I don't want to say if they had Dawson and Gabby's names on them, then I would use it.
yes,
But
you would. I know you would. But what I like, they're still thinking of them every time
yes.
they pick it
Yeah.
up. But there's something that just feels different about it when it's not specific to the date. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I don't know, it feels just much more like universal and I like it better.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Any other details that you think are important to cover?
Um, I guess my only other essential
Mhm.
is have a plan, write it out on a Google Doc, have when you're doing what at the shower so that you know what you're doing and when you're doing it. And so people just aren't, everyone wants to be led at an event. They really
Yes.
do. And I
Yes.
think that's something we miss is that we think, oh, I just want to be chill and I just want it to, people to feel welcome. But I will tell you, people will feel more welcome and more included and more comfortable if you take leadership of the time that people are there. So you have intentional time. Okay, now we're doing this. Now we're doing this. And you are actually directing people through that. So it was great because my sister and my mom and I did the shower together. We work really well together. We brainstormed, we had everything out, listed out in a Google Doc, who was doing what salads we were making. Oh, that's the other thing. Let's talk about that in a minute. And really, have everything clearly laid out that people can go back to and refer to.
Mm-hmm.
And then also exactly like, okay, from this time to this time, this is what we're doing. From this time to this time, this is what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Great. I love it. I completely agree. And I can say, as someone who has taken that super chill approach, and after having read The Art of Gathering, in my head, I was like, I'm doing it all wrong right now. Because it's not going the way Priya Parker says it should. Because that is the area where I probably need to grow in my hostess skills, because I don't want to boss people around. But the truth is, they want to be told what to do. And so you can do that in a gentle, kind way. And it may take some negotiating if you are hosting the party with somebody who has a different approach. So just keep that
I mean, there was this one time where my kids went to an event around Christmas, and it was a sacrifice because, that's really high value real estate those days right around Christmas. And we all as a family sacrificed for them to go to an event. And the leader of that event didn't provide any structure. And the kids came home saying that was a total waste of time. And then I was really frustrated because we gave up precious family time for that to happen. And they really felt like it was a total waste of time because there was no structure. And so I think it's just really important to remember that even if we're someone who doesn't always like that it actually creates intentional time at the event or party that is meaningful and matters and makes a difference. So anyway, okay. The other thing is I want to talk about food just a little bit. And that is that, when you host something, people have dietary needs. And that's just the reality, especially now. People have more and more things. And so just really trying to come up with something at the buffet that people can have. So one item in the food and one item in the dessert. So like we clarify, this is gluten-free, this is dairy-free, this is, and making sure that people know that. So a quinoa salad is actually really good for gluten-free and dairy-free. So having a quinoa salad available to people is great. If you do a Caesar, actually sourdough croutons, often gluten-free people can use. So I did homemade sourdough croutons on the Caesar. And then I did another bowl of Caesar that just had the lettuce and no croutons at all in case that they couldn't. And then in the dessert bar, we had at least one gluten-free option.
Great. Yeah.
And we tend to buy desserts and we make the salads. So that's kind of, when we're doing something that's more female based, we make our own salads, we buy the desserts. And that just it's just tended to be a successful recipe in that because the desserts, they elevate them. And that's part of the fun of the really decorated desserts. It makes it feel really special. And so let's just let the experts do that.
Yeah. Though I do like to make desserts, but we did outsource it for our latest party. And I would say, actually another mom outsourced it. So that's one of my tips is when people offer to help, have on the ready in your brain 3 bite-sized tasks you can offer that person. And maybe you just offer them one, but in your mind, you're thinking, okay, what would this person be good at of the 3 things I need help with? And so I asked one mom to pick up, we were having some special pizzas delivered because we did an Italian theme in honor of our Italian exchange student for prom. So
Cute.
she has one restaurant where she likes her pizza from in Denver. And I said, can you pick up pizzas from there? And she ended up actually outsourcing that to somebody else. And she went and picked up desserts at an Italian bakery. So she kind of added on. And
Love
then
it.
as other people asked me for help, I said, can you just give her money for those things? And I got everything else covered. So just kind of having in your mind some really easy yeses that will help you as the host, but will also help your helpers.
Mhm.
And then I asked people to bring, a couple of people brought chairs ahead of time because I needed some help having the right chairs around the table. And then my mom loves to do flower arranging for parties at our house. Like it's her thing she can do. She's not going to cook. She's not
Mhm.
going to help me schlep stuff around, but she can do the flowers, and she loves to use stuff from her own yard or from our yard, to, of course, do it on the cheap. But right now we don't have a lot of flowers. So she did a lot of greenery from her yard. And then she bought a couple of bunches of flowers from the grocery store and did 2 big arrangements and small vases for the main table. She did a lot of flowers with just spending like $15.
Yeah,
And
that's
again,
amazing.
she has the vases, she has all of that. And then if you're a money saver like I am, if you're on the cheap, the Dollar Tree is amazing for just sparkle. So for one-time use kind of things, I went into their floral section, which they have like a fake flower section, and bought 3 bags. So now it's actually a $1.25 store. So for $5, $4.75 or $3.75, I got 3 bags of just these sparkly foam balls. They were gold and silver, and I just spread them on the table. So easy. After I layered some napkins and things. And then another layer I had at every place setting was a black disposable bib, which was a super fun yet practical addition. So you can get, who knew, packages of adult bibs on Amazon in all kinds of colors.
Wait,
And
why did you do bibs?
because I will tell you, there were people concerned that the prom people were going to get spaghetti sauce on their clothes.
Oh, because it was Italian.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I can't deal with other people's stress. I'm just going to buy the bibs, make it available. And then, because we just
Did
had a lot
anyone
of,
wear them?
it turns out every single kid wore them. We left the room during dinner and I assumed nobody wore them. And I was telling someone later, and Genevieve corrected me and said, everybody wore them.
Oh
So
my God.
what we pictured when I bought them is somebody's going to be silly and put it on, and it's going
Right.
to add like a lighthearted element to this
Mhm.
new formal experience for these kids. And it turns out they all wore them. So
Oh my gosh, that actually is smart. Like if they're wearing something yeah, interesting.
it was like $8 for 25 or something.
Yeah.
So and they're disposable and they're not great quality. Like you wouldn't want to
Well, right. Yeah.
lather
No.
yourself, but for this, so those were my tips that I learned this round
Mhm.
that I thought I would pass on.
Love it.
Okay. Well, that's our fun. We were heavy on the fun.
Yeah, we've got a lot of fun today, but let's go into some fire. And you've got a little fire in your bones right now because there's been some stuff happening in Denver, Colorado. Let's talk
Oh,
about that.
man. Okay. So my kids go to a Denver Public High School. I think readers probably can figure that out. And we're not super creative with our names here in Denver. My kids go to Denver North. Denver East has been in the news. It was in the national news about, I don't know, right before spring break. So mid-March, because 2 administrators were shot in the front office. They survived. But we have had a lot of politics the last few years around school safety. Our school resource officers, which are police officers embedded in the schools, were removed by the school board last year. And we are a city that is struggling with violence right now. It's just true. Nobody can deny that the gun violence in our city has gone up, and it's impacting young adults, and it's impacting teenagers, and it's impacting our students. So school safety has always been a big issue for me, but right now it's on the forefront of my mind. So this is what's getting me fired up right now, our safety concerns. So the question for me, as I look at this problem, because I get really overwhelmed with the fact that I'm told we have more guns on the streets in America, or just, in people's homes, wherever they are, than we do people.
Mhm.
That at this point in the process, what can I do? If I want to be a world changer for good, right where I am, what do I do?
Because it
And
feels like a drop in the ocean if you look at it big picture like that.
well, it just feels like there's no solution. And
Mhm.
we have teenagers who are having a mental health, we have a crisis on our hands. I shouldn't just limit it to teenagers. We have a country dealing
Right.
with a mental health crisis. And we have a country that has more guns than people. And this combination seems to be creating some serious, serious problems that we just keep fighting about. And
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not here to say what I think is the right solution. I don't know. So in that I don't know what to do on the big picture, I do know what I can do on the little picture, on the
Mhm.
micro, on the me. And what I can do is support my local school administrators. So what do they want from parents? What do they need from the community to be able to run their schools safely? And they're asking for certain things, like they're asking for the SROs to be put back in schools. They had asked for the SROs to never be removed. So I had supported SROs staying in the first place. But
Mhm.
there are some things that with my local school board, I can advocate for. I can tell local administrators, and by that, I mean the actual principal at my actual high school. I wrote him an email because our district had a mental health day after the shooting at East, because we were going into spring break. And honestly, I think it's because the teachers were going to walk out as protest, that something had to change. So we had this mental health day, and I thought, I'm going to email every adult in the building at our high school that I have an actual relationship with and tell them how much I appreciate that they go to school every day. I mean, it gets me so emotional. Like, who does
Mhm.
that? Who goes to school when they know that this could happen? You know,
Mhm.
God bless these adults.
Mhm.
So I thought, okay, this is something I can do. I can say, I'm here. I appreciate you. I see you. I know this is a choice for you. And because, I mean, you can go get a job getting paid probably double with your
Right.
skill set doing something else that's not in a school. So what can I do? What else can I do to support you? And mostly I just got thank you. That was, nobody asked me to do anything specifically, but that's part of what I can do, is to tell administrators, I am here as a parent on your side. And I'm not here to fight you on anything. I'm here to support you as you do your best to do your job, because I
Mhm.
believe in you. I believe your intentions are good, and we're all on the same team here. We're all on the same team. We want our kids to be safe. The other thing I did is I wrote an email a couple of days ago because our school had announced that, I think, if I remember right, I saw an email that we were going to have some kind of open meeting for parents around school safety, and it hasn't been scheduled yet, as far as I know. So I wrote a few people at the high school and said, hey, I'm still waiting for that. Like, there's that a little bit of accountability too, of I'm here to support you. We're on the same team, and I want to help keep moving things forward. And
Mhm.
I'm still here, and I'm still concerned about this. So
Mhm.
that's the fire that is helping me stay focused locally, and also saying, what can we do proactively in this direction to keep everybody safe? So that's kind of what I am. And then, I parallel that with my paid job, where I work in the world of foster care and connecting churches to local foster care. And foster care exists to keep kids safe. That's the purpose, is to keep kids safe. And so I'm in this world of child safety. And again, that's where I ask, am I supposed to be a foster parent? Any person who hears about the situation of kids in foster care, I think one of the big first questions is, am I supposed to do that? Am I supposed to open my home to children? And I think for a lot of people, the answer is yes. For us, so far as a family, the answer has not been yes. It has been a no. And yet I have a responsibility. And so how do I harness my gifts, which happen to be around communication, around connections, both locally and nationally? How do I harness those for the greater good. And that's what I do kind of in my job constantly. And so I think these questions of, these are huge issues, huge problems. What's my responsibility to be a world changer for good right where I am? And that's kind of the thing. Can you hear the fire, Krista? Can you hear it
Oh,
in
yeah.
my voice?
Well, because I've been walking with you in this fire
Yeah.
and have been, a part of the present moment when things happen. And it's really hard. And I think as we look at what, where are we rising? This is our time to rise. So where can we rise and not shrink or be overwhelmed by the problem? And I think that is the question, because when I look at gun violence coupled with the mental health crisis, it is so overwhelming. I mean, when we look at the stats, that the majority of the shootings are happening, the average age is 18. And then besides this last one in Nashville, it's pretty much males. And it's hard to know. I mean, first of all, the lobes are not developed. The prefrontal cortex, right, is not fully developed
in young people.
in young people, and until age 25. And there is just this combination of things happening. And I think a lot of people go back to the past and say, well, it wasn't like that back in this era. And it wasn't like that when I was growing up and when you were growing up. But the fact is that things have changed drastically, and we have to do things differently. We have to adapt with what is now the reality. I think that is what is so poignant to me, is that we can wish for this or wish for that, but the reality of what is now is that we have this crisis. And what is my role in rising to that? And I think that's what I just heard you say, is you feel your role right now is supporting the teachers and the administrators on your local level. I think for every one of us, the answer is going to be different. But what is my role, and where am I rising to meet the current reality that is a crisis of our world? And how do I not shrink from that?
Yeah. So how have you answered that question as you've looked at it and been overwhelmed?
Well, I, like you, am trying to really support on a local level. And I have seen a real up in communication from our high school also about strange activity. So for example, there was a day where a man was kind of wandering around the school after school, and our principal, I love the way that she put it. She sent out a message to all the parents and to the students and to teachers. She was obviously in communication with the teachers, but they put it as protect our house. And so all over the doors, it says, students, protect our house. Don't let in people you don't know. And I just love that. Like, what a great way to say that. But also, asking, how can we be helping? How can we be supporting you? How can we be reporting? How can we be whatever, right? So on that level. And then the other thing is, I've just become more of a supporter of organizations financially, of organizations that are trying to address this in a very, what I feel is a very holistic way, addressing the various components of the crisis, of the school shooting specifically, but also it bleeds into suicide, and right? I mean, the gun issue, it bleeds into so much and domestic violence. You and I were just talking about that. So, but I think, the school shooting is kind of at the school shootings is kind of at the center of it. And so even at a local level, but also, Crystal Woodland Miller's foundation that she started for survivors of school shootings and their families.
Mhm.
I mean, supporting organizations like that. It's called, remind me what the name of it is.
I can't remember something about heroes.
We'll put it in the show notes because
Okay.
for some reason I'm not remembering the exact name, but it's a powerful nonprofit that provides support. But I also want to be someone who is supporting people who are trying to proactively do things to address the issue. And so, like the Sandy Hook Promise, that is from that's an organization that was created by Sandy Hook parents
Mhm.
who their children were in the first grade classroom, and they have come together to really try and address what's happening so that it doesn't happen to other children. And
Mhm.
that's powerful. Their stories
Mhm.
are powerful.
Mhm. Yeah, because I think as adults, sometimes I don't want to be the adult in the room. I mean, the reality is I don't want to be the one responsible for this. Somebody else must be, right? Somebody else must be responsible for this. But I think I'm now seeing I'm well grown. I can't deny it that we do have a responsibility to keep kids safe. And we don't want to do it just when it's our kids. Like, you don't want to wait until the moment when you think it's just impacting my kids. Um, we want to be those responsible adults. And we all can't take on every issue, right?
Mhm.
That's the other thing is we all can't join every group and advocate for everything. And yet this particular issue of safety is a very basic. And
Mhm.
we all need, as adults in the room, in the country, if we're talking on a national level, but in the community, I'm really focused on Denver specifically. We all need to take responsibility in what is ours to hold, and then ask, is there something else I'm supposed to be holding that I'm not?
And like, we get it. Like
Mhm.
Alex and I just want to speak to the listener for a second. Like, we get it that this is complicated when it comes to politics, and that
Mhm.
a lot of you are in different places, and we get that, and we hold that nuance. That's a
Mhm.
part of what we want to be about here, actually, is that we hold that nuance and tension that people, and give you freedom. Like, you have the freedom to be able to hold what you are holding as far as your convictions. And at the same time, right, we want to be people who are rising and who promote what is good. And what is good is keeping kids safe,
Yeah.
and every kid. And I'm not even prone to fear. Like, I'm not someone who thinks of worst case scenarios or who like ruminates on those kinds of things. And I often consider what might happen when I send my son to school at the high
Mhm.
school. And that, I hate that.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
hate that. I hate that every morning when
I know.
a lot of I have a ritual that I say every morning when my kids leave. And I hate that I have to think about that. Will this be the last time that I say that to him? But that is the reality of our world.
Mm.
And it's not okay. It's one of the things that's deeply broken, that when we send our kids to school. And again, I'm not someone that's naturally fear-based. That's not my normal way of moving through the world. And I have to fight it. And I do, because I don't want to be a person, who is fear-based. And I don't want that to be the thought I meditate on. So I do let it go. But the reality is that our culture is in such a space that is a real possibility in our high school and in our school. And that is the reality of where we are. And so what am I going to do that at least helps people and helps to try and keep our school safe as it can be?
Mhm. Right. Yeah, I get it. We live in the city and there are sirens multiple times a day. And my instinct is to listen to what direction are the sirens going.
Mhm.
Because my 3 schools, and we've had gun incidents at all 3 schools
Right.
when my kids have been there, like significant ones
Mhm.
with live bullets. Like it's not a pretend away thing.
Exactly.
And so
Mhm.
I think if you live in America, you can relate to this, and you have kids in school right now. You can relate
Mhm.
to this fear. And if you don't have kids, I think you can just understand that this is a real fear for parents.
Mhm.
So that's the fire that has us going. And
Yeah, I think that's probably good on our fire today.
um
But
and we would love to hear your thoughts on
Mhm.
this. I mean, really, message us on Instagram. That's always a good way to find us.
Mhm.
And again, like Krista said, we know this is a complex issue. Um, and we also know that something needs to change
Mhm.
because kids need to be safe.
Yeah. And it's our time to rise. And so
Mhm,
how are we rising
mhm,
in the way that we feel called to do so?
mhm. Yeah.
And maybe that's helping with mental health. Maybe it's at a local level. Who knows? I mean, we'd love
Mhm,
to hear where do you feel led and called around this? Because I don't know of anyone who's not upset about this. Honestly, the world is upset about this. So
mhm.
let's talk about it. So
Yeah.
message us.
Hey,
All right. Fun and fire.
fun
Hope
and
you enjoyed
fire.
it today.
Bye.
Bye.